This is every famous brand or company that the creators of Gumball dissed in the show. And if you're a longtime Gumball fan, you probably know that Season 1 is pretty light on real-life references. So we're gonna move right on to Season 2, starting with the remote. And they did not hold back in this one. In this episode, the family each want to use the TV, so they all fight to find the remote. During the fight, Anais tells Nicole that the remote they used was a Logic card. This is a parody of the Swedish tech brand Logitech, who are known for making universal remotes. Next, we have the fridge. And in this episode, the creators make fun of the company Lucasfilms and their mascot franchise Star Wars. In the scene where Nicole tries tempting Gumball to join her, she sounds a lot like Darth Vader in the final battle of Star Wars Episode 5. This is the first and certainly not the last time Gumball will make fun of Lucasfilm/Star Wars. But for now, we're moving on to the phone. And in this episode, Gumball and Darwin bought a new phone. The only catch being that it's probably as old as the dinosaurs. Like, it has a freaking antenna attached. It doesn't get much older than that. Even though the phone doesn't look like a Nokia phone, they do call it a brick multiple times, a word that's commonly used to describe old Nokia phones. And usually when people talk about old brick phones, their minds instantly jump to Nokia. Also, in this episode, Nintendo catches a stray with the main antagonist Ocho literally being an alien from Space Raiders. Plus, the final battle is a recreation of Space Raiders. Like with Lucasfilms, there will be a lot more times Gumball makes fun of Nintendo in this video. Next up is the treasure. In this episode, Gumball, Darwin, and Anais, well, mostly Anais, want to find out why they're so poor. Richard is shown watching a mockbuster from the bargain bin, as Gumball puts it, and Richard tells him that the movie is called How to Ratatouille Your Panda. This is a jab at the company Video Boy Kendo, which makes animated movies such as the absolute masterpieces Ratatouille and The Little Panda Fighter, both of which are ripoffs of already popular animated movies and are both mocked in this episode. The words are up next. And we have our first introduction to Elmore Plus, when we see Tobias pulling the chunking and deuce poses, which infuriates Darwin. Elmore Plus is a parody of Facebook and Google Plus. You may now be asking, why Google Plus? And that's because back then, Google was really pushing for this to be the new Facebook. The pumpkin is next, and we have our second Nintendo parody, this being another Space Invaders reference. When Gumball is couch rotting with Idaho, he's playing a game that's very similar to Space Invaders. We also get a parody of TomTom Satnavs, with Richard using Memu Satnav, which is both broken and extremely effective at the same time. The virus is next, and we have another Nintendo reference. In the scene where the virus confronts Gumball at the end of the episode, he says, "I hope your body is ready."
I hope your body is ready.
This is a reference to a speech made by previous CEO of Nintendo America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, which became a big meme. The episode also references Microsoft and their famous blue screens when the virus infects a computer. Next is the pony. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin are trying to get a DVD to Anais, so they can watch it together. This pony movie is a reference to the popular children's media brand My Little Pony. The sidekick is next. In the beginning of this episode, Gumball tries to recreate the game Tobias stole from them with Darwin. Unsurprisingly, this is another Nintendo reference, with Gumball using an SNES controller and Darwin getting stuck going up and down after Gumball spams the control for crouch, which is a glitch that would happen in older game consoles like the SNES. The storm is next. In this episode, we have Carmen and Alan's relationship annoying everyone. We see a reference to the popular book brand For Dummies, with Carmen reading one of the books. The lesson is next. And in the beginning of this episode, we have another parody of Star Wars, with Gumball and Darwin's play fight. When Gumball tells Darwin, he says you have failed for the last time.
You have failed me for the last time.
Which is what the Emperor tells Vader at the end of episode 6. And we also have them doing a fake lightsaber battle with rulers. Next is the limit. In this episode, Gumball, Darwin, Richard, and Anais beg Nicole for candy, but she just isn't having it. One of the candies that they ask for is Huggy Bites, which has a bear mascot, so this could be a reference to Gummy Bear brand of candy Andy. Oh, Andy's dressed like Mario, so that's another reference. The voice is next. And this episode gets a lot more attention as a Facebook parody, as we get to see Gumball looking at his friends' bios, their pictures, and even blocking all of them. Now, we have The Promise, where the whole plot revolves around Darwin making a promise to help Banana Joe on the same afternoon that Gumball had specifically planned to play a new game with him. The game in question being The Tale of Zelmore, which is a clear reference to The Legend of Zelda. So that's another Nintendo reference. The tape is next. And in this episode, we see Gumball and Darwin make home movies, and there are references to popular brands littered throughout each of these movies. Ocho's segment is filled with Nintendo references, with him using the famous Konami code to get the Super Mario Star and Coin Bat. One of the commercials for Baby Anais is a clear parody of the children's brand of Toys Baby Alive. Finally, for this episode, Gumball is parodying the BBC and their nature documentaries when he's commentating over his family fighting over the junk food. The Sweaters is next. And in this episode, we see Gumball and Darwin being harassed by two jocks. This episode parodies the animation company Hanna-Barbera, as the two bullies are animated in the classic Hanna-Barbera art style. And since they were really big in the 90s, these two bullies are the most 90s bullies that I've ever seen. The final episode of season 2 we're going to be looking at is the internet, and this episode is a massive parody of YouTube. In this episode, an embarrassing video of Gumball gets uploaded to the internet and goes viral. The website which Gumball's video was uploaded on was Elmore Stream, which is just the Gumball version of YouTube. Also, the trend where Gumball gets scared by a video where a car goes across the road and there's a jump scare is a reference to a real ad by Keffi Coffee Company. This ad was one of the first viral videos on YouTube. Kicking off season 3, we have The Joy. In this episode, Miss Simeon figures out that Gumball and Darwin are infected with some sort of happy zombie virus and need to protect the school. Eventually, they break out of quarantine and start to infect others. And when Rocky's about to get turned, he says,
"Ah, it really works!"
This is a reference to the deodorant brand Axe Body Spray, who are known for having ridiculous ads of the main person being surrounded by women after spraying Axe, which I can confirm does not work in real life. The recipe is next. And in this episode, Gumball and Darwin figure out that Anton was being resurrected by his parents using a toaster combination. Unfortunately though for Anton, the way they found out was by murdering him multiple times. One of those times was by showing him the same Keffi commercial on YouTube, just like the one that Gumball watched in the internet episode. The Void is next. And in this episode, Gumball, Darwin, and Mr. Small go to the Void to get Molly back. This episode makes fun of a lot of obsolete things like jorts and Laserdisc, but the specific one we're going to be looking at is Microsoft's Clippy, which used to be the assistant for Microsoft programs. However, they stopped using him, which is why he's now in the Void. The Allergy is next. And in this episode, Darwin is sneezing up a storm. Literally. Each sneeze is destroying everything. Anais and Gumball come to the conclusion that Darwin is allergic to stupidity, which is not helped when Gumball says the specific ocean instead of the Pacific Ocean.
One stupid word and you could all get blown off to the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
This is a jab at Yahoo, specifically Yahoo Answers, with one of their viral posts being how big is the Pacific Ocean. The lie is the next one we're going to be looking at. In this episode, Gumball and Anais come up with a new holiday called Sluzzletag, and eventually trick the whole town into thinking it's real. They even parody the Rack and Baskin animation company, who makes all the Christmas stop-motion animations like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, by making The Night Before Sluzzletag a similar stop-motion type movie. The question is next. And in this episode, Gumball and Darwin get mad because their mom stopped buying them sugary cereal, and instead they got the plain old store brand cereal. This cereal is actually a dig at the Quaker Oats brand, as you can tell by the mascot. The safety is next. And in this episode, after watching a safety PSA, Darwin becomes a dictator to try to stop anyone from hurting themselves. In this video so far, we've seen Gumball go after some pretty big companies, but this one might be their biggest, as in the episode, they make fun of the US Forest Service. The character in the safety PSA that Darwin watches is a bear, which is clearly a reference to the iconic mascot of the US Forestry Service, Smokey the Bear. The spoiler is next. And in this episode, Gumball tries avoiding spoilers for the upcoming movie, The Screaming. In the scene with Gumball and Anais on the couch, they are watching what looks like a parody of the Pokemon anime. This is actually the biggest brand they've made fun of so far, with Pokemon being the highest grossing media brand of all time. The Downer is the final episode of season 3 we're going to be looking at. And in this episode, Gumball wishes for everyone to disappear. He initially loves the peace and quiet, but then feels the place is super depressing and sees a miserable ad for Captain Crud, which is a parody of the cereal brand Captain Crunch. But now let's move on to season 4. And the first episode of this season we're going to be looking at is The Check. In this episode, we get to see the introduction of the Bank of Elmore, which is a parody of Bank of America. Although they don't really make fun of them in this episode, they do a lot in future episodes. The upgrade is next. And in this episode, we have Bobbert receiving a new update, which barely changes anything, but makes it so he glitches and lags all the time. So Gumball and Darwin take him to the Bobbert store to get him fixed, where they just give him a new one, but they want their old friend back. So they go on a massive chase with a jet and eventually get back old Bobbert. If you couldn't tell, this episode is a massive parody of Apple, with Bobbert basically just being a stand-in for Apple. There are many different things that they make fun of with Apple, one of them being that the updates make software worse, which forces you to buy a new one. At the beginning, the ad for the new Bobbert is similar to the hyper-corporate ads that Apple makes for their products. The comic is next. And in this episode, Sarah makes a comic book about a superhero named Superheart, who is based off of Gumball. This episode has a ton of references that makes fun of the DC comic brand, and their characters specifically, Batman and Superman, with Gumball's Superheart logo spinning as a transition to the 1960s Batman show. And also, the Swear to Me scene is the same thing that Christian Bale's Batman says to a criminal. They also make fun of Superman, with the scene of Gumball pretending to fly Harold around, being a parody of the Superman 1978 film. The uploads are next, and this one has a parody of YouTube with Elmore Stream It. Specifically, this episode makes fun of Let's Play videos, with Richard playing Calculator, or as he calls it, In this episode, we also see Alan's attempt at the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and Tobias's prank video, which eventually goes wrong and is turned into an MLG parody. The icing on the cake is that all of these were legitimate trends on YouTube. The Wicked is next. And in this episode, Darwin tries to figure out why Mrs. Robinson is so mean and tries curing her. He stages a situation where Mrs. Robinson is forced to help by pretending to swallow a toy inside a chocolate egg, but she doesn't care. This candy, and the fact that Darwin called it a choking hazard, is clearly a jab at the company Kinders for their surprise eggs with toys inside. The blame is next. And in this episode, there are a lot of Nintendo references. We get the Watterson family playing Wii Sports, Tina playing on her Game Boy Advanced, and we just straight up see games like Mario and Zelda during the unplugging montage. Plus, Mojang catches a stray, as the game Banana Joe plays is a reference to Minecraft. The compilation is the final episode of season 4 we're going to be looking at, and it's yet again another YouTube parody, making fun of more stupid YouTube trends. One of the biggest trends at this time was to make videos about cartoon lost episodes. So in this episode, they get really meta, with one of the videos apparently being the recovered version of The Grieving. This episode is actually a real internet hoax, just like most other cartoon lost episodes, but it's crazy seeing Gumball referencing it. We've also seen them parodying unboxing videos, with Tobias unboxing what was supposed to be a phone, but instead he gets a heart from a heart transplant. And finally, they parody car accident videos, with the mobility scooters turning into Mario Karts. But now, let's move on to season 5, starting with the rerun. We're back in the void, so of course we have different obsolete products from big companies. This time, we have Atari's E.T., which is widely considered one of the worst games of all time. The code is next. And in this episode, Mr. Robinson cuts off the internet, so Gumball and Darwin have to find alternatives to do different things on the internet. First, we have the Netflix alternative, made out of cardboard. Then we have the Skype alternative, also made out of cardboard. And then we get another Facebook parody, with Gumball and Darwin liking and poking Ocho. And they also email each other memes. Then they parody Dropbox, with Box Drop, which is literally just a box falling from the sky. Finally, they parody Kickstarter, with them begging for money for lazy perks like smiling. The test is next. And in this episode, Gumball takes a personality quiz of which sitcom character he would be. This is a parody of the random BuzzFeed personality quizzes, accompanied by stupid articles about llamas, which BuzzFeed also does. The website is also called Elmore Buzz, so it can't get any more clear than that. The slide is next. And in this episode, Gumball and Darwin try to get Rocky a girlfriend using a dating app, Trawler, which is basically a parody of Tinder. But instead of swiping right and left, it's up and down. The Copycats is next. And in this episode, they make fun of the company Soyon Foods with their ripoff Gumball show called Miracle Star. In the episode, they call them lazy copycats and make fun of how blatant the copying is. They also make fun of them for not having an Anais equivalent because of laws in China. Next is the console. In this episode, Gumball gets sucked into a video game world and has to beat it in order to get back to the normal world. At the beginning of the episode, we see all of the Watersons bootlegged things, like all their Sony products, Soppy. The main episode is a parody of the company Square Enix's hit game franchise, Final Fantasy. Up next, we have the X. In this episode, Gumball wants Rob to be his nemesis again, but he just can't bring himself to hate Gumball after being saved by him in the rerun. Gumball complains about this, talking about how all heroes have their nemesis, like a boy wizard and the creepy ginger kid that keeps following him around.
That boy wizard who had that creepy ginger dude following him around.
This line is clearly poking fun at the Harry Potter brand of books and movies, as Gumball thinks that Ron is actually Harry Potter's nemesis. Now we have the catfish. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin catfish their grandpa Louie because he has no friends. In one scene, Gumball says that he looked himself up on the internet, and then his face turns super creeped out. This is a reference to the company DeviantArt, whose forums are filled with really creepy art of Gumball and a bunch of other cartoons characters. The menu is next. And in this episode, Richard tries to find the secret burger from Joyful Burger. To do this, they kidnap Larry and start vandalizing the Joyful Burger mascot, Bergie, in front of them. Bergie is a clear parody of Ronald McDonald. Also, he holds up Tennessee Fried Chicken, which Larry says is a competitor, clearly being a jab at KFC. The uncle is next. And Nintendo just can't catch a break, because in this episode, Gumball tries to meet Ocho's uncle, Mario, who ends up being a bald, smelly fat man. The best is the next one we're going to be looking at. And here, Gumball wants to beat Carmen in an argument about who's more morally superior. So he downloads all the forums of the website Rambler, and then starts destroying Carmen with SJW brain rot. The whole website of Rambler is a parody of the social media brand Tumblr, which was home to all of these SJW argument forums. The line is next. And in this episode, we have Lucasfilms and the Star Wars franchise being made fun of again. This entire episode is based off of the release of The Force Awakens. In this case, it's the new Stellar Odyssey, and there's a bunch of references to the Star Wars story and fandom, like how the parents were kids when they were watching the previous one. There's a character that's just Jar Jar Binks that died, and at the end, we have a whole fan base that's extremely nerdy. The Cage is the final episode of the season we're gonna be looking at, and in this episode, Mr. Cornell has to fight this big Russian dude to save the school. The match looks very similar to what the UFC brand MMA fights look like in real life. But now we're on to season 6, starting with the Slip. In this episode, they make fun of another government service, that being the US Postal Service. The main villain of this episode is Gruber, who is a delivery driver, and the van he uses is based off the real Gruber LLV, which the delivery drivers use. Next, we have the Master, and in this episode, we have them making fun of the toy company Hasbro, and their iconic tabletop RPG, Dungeons & Dragons. In this episode, the Watterson family is having an argument, so Richard breaks out his D&D set so they can make up. Next, we have The Agent. In this episode, they make fun of one of, if not the biggest action franchise, that being James Bond, with Gumball being dressed and acting like him, and Darwin being dressed as the stereotypical Bond girl. Next, we have The Web. In this episode, we have Gumball intervening into their mom's company to see how she and all the other employees are using the internet. It turns out that they have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and even Microsoft catches a stray, as all the adults use Interweb Explorer, which Gumball says is slow, clearly being a reference to Microsoft's Internet Explorer. Finally, for this season, we have the BFFs. In this episode, Darwin gets jealous once Gumball's old friend Fuzzy comes back. The Fuzzy toy is a reference to the popular children's brand of toys, Furbies, even keeping their trademark creepiness. But now, let's move on to season 7, starting with the burger. And this entire episode revolves around Gumball and Darwin trying to eat healthy food. But the CEO of Joyful Burger is not having it, with his greediness making it impossible for the boys to find something healthy to eat. This episode is a massive middle finger to McDonald's and other fast food companies, like Burger King, and their greedy business practices, with Joyful Burger being a stand-in for them. Next is the assistant. In this episode, Nicole is really tired of her family and finds a new friend in the form of an AI. Eventually, however, this AI tries to take over her entire life and get rid of her family. One of the ways she does this is by getting Nicole to wear a VR headset to transport her to a new VR world. This is clearly poking fun at Facebook's metaverse, with the VR headset and everything. Also, Facebook is now called Meta, so I've technically been getting it wrong this whole video, but I'm still calling it Facebook. The Distance is next, and in this episode, Gumball and Darwin are separated by Nicole and put into separate rooms. They can't handle this space, so they stay up all night calling each other and playing this online chat game server. This game is clearly a parody of Club Penguin. The app is next, and this one is pretty clear from the get-go. There's this new app called Click Snap, which Gumball and Darwin really want. It's an app where you post short videos of yourself on a vertical format, which eventually gets overrun with parents trying to seem cool by posting videos of themselves on it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you've all gathered that this is supposed to be making fun of TikTok. The entrance is next, and in this episode, we have the creators taking shots at Vogue's Met Gala. Gumball and Darwin really want to make a grand entrance to Tobias's party. They take a cologne which makes them hallucinate and makes them start wearing a bunch of completely outrageous outfits, which are similar to Met Gala outfits like Rihanna and Kim Kardashian wear. The letter is next, and in this episode, Darwin gives Carrie a love letter and immediately reveals she hates love letters. In the scene where Gumball tries to read Swedish names of furniture, we have a clear reference to the Swedish furniture brand IKEA. Finally, for season 7, we have The Gut. Initially in this episode, I couldn't find anything that's making fun of big companies, but the Gumball wiki came in clutch, as the streaming service that Richard watches is called Yulu, and this is a parody of Hulu, which funnily enough is where the wonderfully weird world of Gumball premieres on. Finally, we have season 8, kicking off with the Unfollow. In this episode, we get one of my favorite callbacks with Gumball and Darwin, how to ratatwang your panda sequels, meaning that the creators still have it in them to make fun of Video Buikondo, despite them not making a movie in 15 years. What makes this extra special is the last time we saw them being made fun of was 13 years ago. So it's cool and feels like they did this reference for diehard fans. Next is the synthesis. In this episode, Nicole and Yuki can't seem to get the approval of their daughters, so they decide to fuse in order to maximize their coolness. Now, there have been many small references to the Dragon Ball franchise here and there, with Gumball failing to go Super Saiyan being the most notable. However, this entire episode is based off of Dragon Ball, so I had to include it. They also make fun of absurd fashions and even more absurd fusion dances the characters have to do for making a really good parody. The score is next, and in this episode, we have Gumball and Darwin follow Ocho around to see why he's so mad, and eventually they see that his life life is literally a video game. There are many Nintendo references, from Mario Kart to WarioWare, and even Game & Watch, which if you don't know what that was, it's the original video game that Nintendo made using holograms. The roast is next, and this episode starts with Gumball insulting the hell out of Alan right in front of him because he thinks it's a roast session, where in fact by roast they meant barbecue. This roast format is a parody of the recent popularity of Netflix roast sessions with people like Tom Brady and the Jonas Brothers. The punishment is next, and in this episode Gumball gets punished for going to school late, but he blames Nicole for not waking him up early, but she blames him for not going to sleep on time, and there is a whole cycle of blame. We have parodies of the monsters from the TAWOG brand, in this case Godzilla and King Jirah, with Gumball being Godzilla and Nicole being King Jirah. Finally, we have the watch. In this episode, we have Richard getting into an argument with Harold about who's in better shape. Eventually, they decide to have a bet. Whoever's in better shape has to pay the other's bills for the next couple months. The families are understandably extremely angry when hearing about this, so they invest in a fitness tracking watch, which doesn't help at all as they ignore all the alarms and reminders it gives. This is a clear parody of fitness apps, but specifically Google and Apple with their Fitbit and Apple Watch respectively. If you enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new, make sure to subscribe, and also click on this video on screen right here. I'm sure you'll love it.